up to 80% of our future water demand. So in view of extreme weather events and the consequences of that, in terms of whether you call it droughts, floods, whatever, especially, this is really more for droughts, we would have supply of water that is non-weather dependent. But the point really is this, which is tied to my message. These things require time, effort, money, and a gamble in a certain way. It's important for us to support companies to test new technologies, business models. We're looking at the entire value chain, as you can see down there. And today, our clean tech sector is actually growing rapidly. If I give you a short glimpse of clean tech sector, so these are some elements of the sector: clean water, waste and water technology, urban management solutions, climate risk management, carbon services, climate finance. And in terms of which companies we have that are forming part of the ecosystem, these are actually not exhaustive, but they do reflect a flavor of what's happened over the last couple of years, and that ecosystem is gradually growing, but it is growing very fast at this point of time. Singapore can also share our know-how with other countries, but we also admit that much as we want to do this well, we do it both to serve certain needs as well as also to identify some solutions for other cities and countries. There is increasing competition and talent is scarce in this regard because this is an emerging area. We also need to keep abreast on areas such as energy efficiency, renewable technologies, develop innovative solutions early, especially given the fact that we have constraints. So to balance the fact that we have those constraints as cited earlier, actually, really we need to take a larger gamble on some of these things because we can't do so much on that front, so we have to do a little bit more on this front. Now, you may also wonder what else is being done. These are some test beds, by the way, just to give you a flavor. What else is Singapore thinking of at this point of time? We have identified certain plans domestically in terms of how we can reduce emissions. And economists, since Euston was on the subject of price, may argue that there's some wisdom, in implementing carbon pricing beyond that being the case for vehicles. Carbon pricing in terms of, dare I say it, the carbon tax. Australia has done it, $23 for a ton of CO2. And it could argue, it makes, from an economic point of view, a carbon price, if set correctly, there would be a market incentive for greater R&D in energy efficiency and a greater stimulation of growth in green industries. So government recognizes that. And the fact of the matter is also that global carbon prices are also expected to increase. So we can see that taking a very objective point of view, there are benefits to carbon pricing, but we also understand, in terms of implications, that this is something that has to be carefully studied because it's not quite a simple solution. The design and the form of the system is something that Singapore would have to look fairly closely at. But basically, the point being that as we increasingly move to a carbon-constrained world, policymakers around the world are looking at various tools and schemes, and carbon pricing will increasingly be one of them. But even before that happens, we don't have to wait for that. We can change energy consumption, we can support technology development, and do much more on our own part. So the third message I have is really what's our role as part of this carbon-constrained future. Now, climate change, if I quote UN Secretary Ban Ki-moon, defining challenge of our age. And every challenge, of course, presents itself as an opportunity. Those of us who are Chinese, the word risk comprises the word risk is weighty. It comprises both the elements of 危险, danger, 机会, opportunity. So you can see glass is half full and half empty. Climate change is not all gloom and doom. There are opportunities. The point is this to the students out there: you could be the next visionary, you could be the next leading scientist, business leader, or even the policy maker. In the areas of renewable energy, urban solutions, green financing, carbon services, there's plenty of space for these activities. There's great strategic importance to the R&D work in various institutes in NUS, in CREATE, NTU, A-STAR, among others, with serious R&D funding available. For example, NRF, the National Research Foundation, has put aside a pot of 300 million to fund energy solutions for deployment within 20 years to help Singapore improve energy efficiency. So you can see that this is really a serious endeavor on the part of the government, at least, you know, in terms of identifying solutions. What's the vision for Singapore? We do want to be climate resilient given our circumstances. We also want to be well positioned for green growth. Okay? We want to do our part to reduce emissions, but we also want to make the best of it. And we know that what we succeed in doing now will be absolutely critical. The point of the matter is that we have transcended land, labor, water constraints. We can overcome carbon constraints as well, but that requires prior planning, that requires some innovation on our part. What's heartening is this. We had a recent survey of Singapore residents, and a majority, 86%, felt a sense of responsibility in doing their part to address climate change. 74% indicated concern about climate change. But of course, what the challenge is going forward is translating that awareness to action, because the survey findings also did show that while many people felt it was important to do it, they didn't quite know how to go about doing it. But fundamentally, ideas, energies can potentially translate this awareness to action. As you can see from some examples there, that there are many community groups, Earth Hour, and then even NUS itself, you have SAFE, you have SAFE, you stand for Students Against Violation of the Earth, right? Okay, acronyms. Yeah, and this was actually an activity done on your Climate Action Day. So you can tell that really there's a very good ground-up climate action movement, ground-up, and some efforts like these all add to the overall culture of doing our part to reduce emissions, because actually the problem is larger than what Singapore can handle. As Ambassador Burhan mentioned, Singapore is ultimately a price taker, but we want to do our part. So on a concluding note, climate change challenges us as policymakers, scientists, economists, negotiators, and we do need the collective efforts of all stakeholders. It is a complex science. Some people say it is as dismal a science as economics, but I will beg to differ. I'll actually say that climate change offers a lot of upside, positive opportunities. We just need to do what we can, plan ahead, and plan it well. Thank you very much.